Okay, here we are, last part of the series, and I'm redoing the landing here for you because we had some questions about what's happening on the throttle stand, and I moved the viewpoint a little bit further back so you have a chance to see what's going on with the thrust levers, with the reverse levers, and also about the speed brake. The auto speed brake is armed. You see the green light just under the standby horizon, and you will see when the wheels spin up, it will deploy. That's the sound that you hear.
40, 30, 20, 10.
Here it goes, and as I open the thrust reverse, you can see when I yank the reverse open, I didn't do that on the first landing, but here I do it. You see that they indeed go up and back. Close them again. We don't want to ingest any objects that we blow up with the reverse thrust from the tarmac. Okay, I'm using the manual brakes again. That disarms the auto brake, and I turn off the runway. Now people will sigh a big breath of relief when they finally landed and get off the active runway, but that's when the fun really starts. Navigating around a big airport like John F. Kennedy is at least as much a challenge as approaching it, and you want to have a very clear plan in your head where you need to go, what the expected arrival is or the expected taxi route is, and you need your co-pilot, of course, to help you navigate. I don't have a co-pilot, so I'm just going to stop right here for a second. That's also something that you can do when you get off the runway. You want to clear it so that the succeeding aircraft don't have to go around, but you need to make sure that you know which turn to take and where to get off, and then it's always acceptable to stop, set the parking brake, collect your wits, and see what's going on. There's also some stuff to do, of course, after you get off the runway, but first I want to show you some more things that we did here. Recently we added some detail here to the underside. It's not something that you'll see very often. It looks pretty messy, just like in the real airplane. Niels did that and he captured that extremely well. Now, as you get off the runway, first things you want to do, the captain, is you don't want to really blind other people. You still have the inboard landing lights on, so you want to turn them off and at least turn on the taxi lights. I also use the turn off lights, and that's makes it easier to see. We have a different livery right now. We're trying all the liveries that we're going to ship, and of course I can show you as well. Here we go. And the next thing you want to do is stow the speed brake. The correct way is to grab it, push it down. The lazy captain's way is to advance the thrust levers. You use the auto stow function when you do that. As soon as the thrust levers go over a certain throttle angle, you will see that it moves up. We're not supposed to do that. It revs up the engines, but I'll show, of course in real life I'd never do it. Here I just show you. I move it up, and up they go. You can also hear the takeoff configuration warning sound. At least 3 reasons. The trim is not in the green band right now, flaps are not in takeoff position, and the parking brake is set. All these are enough to trigger the takeoff warning. So as the plane is not in the right configuration for takeoff, you will get this warning. Next thing is you call your first officer to do the after landing items, and you specify with or without APU. Reasons to start the APU is that you cannot get ground power where you go, that it's really hot or cold, you want to get fresh air into the cabin after you shut down the engines. Today the temperature is acceptable and it's a big airport. I expect to get ground power when we get there, so I say after landing items without APU, and he doesn't toggle the APU, of course, but he goes up in this big sweeping motion that we described already. He turns off the pitot heat. That's important because they would overheat. We don't need the engine anti-ice anymore, so we turn that off, and further down he moves and goes over the pressurization panel, and we of course want to switch that back to ground. And when I do that, pay close attention. Right now the cabin is still slightly pressurized. You see the outflow valve is almost closed. That's again for avoiding this pressure bump during higher pitch during landing. And as I toggle this to ground, you see the cabin climbs because the outflow valve opens, the residual pressure gets dumped. Now the differential pressure is really zero, the outflow valve is wide open, and the flight attendants can open the doors when we get there. Strobe lights off. They are really blinding other people, and we don't need the ignition on continuous anymore. Someone pointed out that I should have turned that to continuous when I turned on the engine anti-ice, and he was of course absolutely right. Now we get some master caution again, anti-ice, that's from turning off the pitot static. And further on we move the auto brake to off again, disarm light extinguishes, and we grab the flaps, put them to up, and you see the flaps start retracting, and you can see that here visually. Of course they are retracting, and we have a clean airplane again. Okay, let's find our way to the gate. I'm releasing the parking brake and start taxiing. Of course, in real life you'd get instructions from the tower where to go, who to yield to, and so on. Right now we're totally alone here in John F. Kennedy, and I didn't mention that before in the other video. I'm using Ted's version of the scenery here in John F. Kennedy. He's done a lot of the airports in North America. Really nice. I really like to use them, and I can only recommend that. I'm also using Andras high definition scenery. You saw that during approach. Very nice rendition of reality, and you can download that as well. It's highly recommended. Okay, I'm turning left here on the Delta taxiway. You can see the signs. Black one means that's the one I'm on, Bravo. Delta is going left and right. And I just want to show you something else. Sometimes when we taxi in for an extended amount of time, we like to turn off one engine to save fuel, and we'll do the right one always, because the left one is powering the A hydraulic system, and that's what's powering the brakes, and we don't want to do that. Here's another one of these crazy guys on the apron. Of course, you write down the number, report his rear to apron control. Of course, he can't drive there. He has to yield to the aircraft. Well, where do they get these people nowadays? I tell my co-pilot, engine number 2 cutoff. He grabs the start lever, moves it to cutoff, and you see, I set my parking brake real quick. It's spinning down, and as it spins down, of course, you get various master caution lights. And if you look up, of course, the number 2 generator is off now, and the one of the ELEC hydraulic pumps is not powered anymore. Some of the window heats. This is all normal, and we only have one generator bus powered right now. This is acceptable during daylight. If you look around, look outside, for example, you can see that the right turn of light is not working anymore. The left one still is, but again, during daylight that is okay. Also some of the reading lights in the cabin and so on. This is not so critical, so now we can taxi in with one engine off. Better check again. Here comes another car, and of course you'll have some asymmetric thrust as I move the left lever. You see the airplane accelerates pretty slow. Need to add some more, but this is all very controllable. You wouldn't want to do that during a situation where the tarmac is slippery, but right now it's acceptable. I'll just go straight ahead to this gate here. Got another master caution ELEC. That's the oil pressure in the one of the generators up here as it spins down. So I cancel that, and I had another one for the hydraulic up there. Okay, usually there's a guy waving me in. Right now, of course, there isn't, but I always say as long as they wave the way I drive, everything is fine. And so we'll just pretend he's here, and I'll get a little closer, and that should be about enough. Set the parking brake, of course. It's embarrassing to forget that the airplane starts moving, and not only embarrassing but also dangerous. Okay, as we get there, of course, if we just turn off an engine now, then the other engine, then everything would get dark. We need some electrical power, either with the APU, but I'm expecting ground power. And the way we do this here is usually when you get to an airport they scramble and do it for you. You wouldn't have to call them, but here in X-Plane you cannot just automate that. So we integrated the ground to cockpit communication here with our audio selector panel in a real way. We want to go to, you could go to flight interphone, that's for the ground, and then go to RT. You could just also go to the inter-cockpit communication. That will also you'll also be able to hear the ground guy, or you could call him here, and as you can hear the wobbling horn outside, and immediately he comes on the interphone and he says ground to cockpit, and you say, well, please connect the ground power unit, and just click that button and then he's all done. And if you look up, he immediately did it, and you can connect the ground power. So now both generator buses are powered again, and it's safe to turn off engine number 1 as well. As you do that, the co-pilot again jumps into motion, and he does the parking items, and of course the captain did not turn off the lights. I forgot that. Usually you do that before you turn onto the stand, otherwise the ground crew will act like they're dying from the blinding light, and they have a good laugh at you. So do that, but the co-pilot turns off the window heats. That's important because it gets really hot in the summer with the window heat going. And we also turn the packs as desired. Right now we don't have any pressure source, so we can just turn them off. We don't need the anti-collision light anymore. We leave the position light on so no one bumps into this. And finally you move the fasten belts to off. Auto doesn't do anything because the gear's down. Off extinguishes them. Of course no one waits for them. You all have been on airplanes. Everyone jumps off as soon as the engines turn off. Okay, this concludes the parking items, and of course now the door is open, people get out, and you would get ready for the next flight. You know, there's up to 4 or 5 sectors a day that pilots do, depending on which country and airline they work for. And but the beginning of this whole video series started with cold and dark, and we'll go back to cold and dark. And not sure if we even have time for this in this video, but I'll just start it, and then maybe we'll have to split it into the second one. Okay, when everyone got out of the airplane and it's safe to remove the electrical power, you will start by again moving along in this in rows. You turn off the IRS system, of course, and it gives you a second. It waits for you turning it to back on. That would be the quick realign function, but after 5 seconds or so it gives up and just turns off. And then as you go down here, you would turn off the fuel pumps and the galley power and the emergency exit lights. If you'd leave them on, then they would come on when you extinguish the battery, and then of course overnight they would drain their own little batteries, and you wouldn't want that. And next thing you do is you turn off the electric hydraulic pumps. Now all hydraulic pumps are unpressurized, and there's no more hydraulic pressure in the airplane. Turn on the position lights. I'll just turn them off. It's bright day and the visibility isn't so bad. You could also turn them on battery, and then they would just stay lit even though the battery was off. That's like an emergency setting, but we don't need to do that. And another important thing is have the windows closed. Right now they don't open yet. We'll plan to have that in the final version, of course, but it's easy to open them in the summer. It's nice and warm, and you forget that, and then during night a big thunderstorm comes up, drenches the cockpit, and I guarantee you wouldn't be able to repay that kind of damage with your whole life's salary, more or less. Next thing, you want to see that the stabilizer trim is at 4 units. In the winter time you'd move it all the way nose down so that the icing fluid would not run into the balance tabs and hinges, but we don't expect any cold weather operations, so we'll just move it to 4 units, and that's enough. And then the last thing that you do, of course I like to reset my clock, and the co-pilot's clock didn't even start. And I also like to reset my plastic speed box, just so the next captain doesn't run into problem of forgetting to set his and uses my old settings with wrong weights possibly. And then the last thing you do, just one big switch, battery off. And it gets quiet and dark again. You grab your flight kit and head to the hotel. I hope you enjoyed this series of videos, and we're going to start doing some more very soon about certain situations, certain abnormal, certain what we call supplementary procedures, and we keep working on the cockpit. We have also working on ground stuff. You can see there's the ground power that I asked for, and oops, moving out of the roof there. And we'll have a pushback truck and high pressure air, of course, a cart, all these things that you expect from a add-on nowadays. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this, and see you again for the next videos.